What would you say if I said to you that the ideals that you hold near and dear to your heart were not actually yours? What if I said to you that those ideals were given to you in a buy one, get the rest free bundle? Well, that's exactly the concept that I put forward at a talk I did at the brilliant Gathering conference hosted by the Daily Maverick recently. And now we've edited in the slides and got the whole talk ready for you for your viewing pleasure. I'd love you to take some time to watch it. I think it's an important concept, and I think forewarned is forearmed. If we can understand how we're being force-fed our ideas, well, we can change that. So enjoy the talk and let me know what you think.
I'd like to start by apologizing to you for lunch. Obviously, it wasn't as Instagram-worthy as you hoped it would be. We will arrange cool drinks for you in the future. But for the rest of you, it could have been worse. It always could have been worse. It could have been one of those set menus. Those things are terrible. They're like playing Russian roulette, but with beluga instead of bullets. My sister went recently to one of those 7-course tasting meals. You know those ones at those fancy restaurants. And she was there and she said it was absolutely incredible, but on the way home, she did have to stop off and pick up some calories. Now, me personally, I prefer a different kind of meal. I don't know if any of you remember years ago, there used to be those Mongolian barbecues. Do you remember those things? They were incredible. You would go and there was this buffet and you would pick up all the ingredients you wanted, gluten included, and then you would take it and you would give it to the chef who would fry this up into this delicious meal prepared just for you. Now, I would take one of those types of meals over a set menu any day of the week. And I can see by some of the nods that many of you agree, which is strange, given that many of us seem to want to take our politics from a set menu. We live in a world in which our ideals have been sold to us in a buy one, get the rest free bundle. And it's dividing us. Our opinions have been monopolized. And this has us divided over seemingly weird, incongruent issues. Like, can you explain to me why it is that if you were walking through the shops and you saw a millennial wearing a mask today, they almost certainly would have their pronouns listed in their Twitter bio? Or why is it that if you have this group of people who are vehemently anti-abortion, right? They are fist in the air complaining about this. And you know why? Because it's obviously it kills children. But they have no problem with teenagers buying AR-15s. And how can it possibly be logical that your points of view on issues such as climate change, whatever they may be, directly correlate with your views on the Black Lives Matter movement? It isn't logical. At least it isn't logical if you think that your political views are your own. But it absolutely is logical if you understand that your political views are less about how you see the world and more about how you want to be seen in it. Social identity theory states that how we see ourselves is dependent on which group we identify as being part of. Now, in the past, this was relatively easy. We were divided by religion, or we were divided by sports teams, which for some people are religions. But now it's politics, and they want you to don their sweater. But you only have to pick a team if you decide to play their game. And I don't think you should. Because you see, once you buy into this group identity, you're more susceptible to just receiving their ideas. And there's a problem with that. Psychologists refer to this as motivated reasoning. And while there is reasoning, it's far from reasonable. There's a great quote that I read once, and it stated as follows. There's a guy by Mark Skousen, and I agree with him wholeheartedly when he said, "We shall never change our political leaders until we change the people that elect them." And we are being changed, but not of our own accord. The manipulation is so obvious that it is laughable. Like, if you imagine the American left are very pro-vaccine. We understand that, but we have short memories. Because you only have to go back to 2020 to find that people like Kamala Harris had a very different point of view around vaccines. She went on camera saying the following.
But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
For all the wrong reasons. And before Al Gore decided to run on the ticket of climate change, nobody disagreed about this issue. Here's what's happening. the things that are important to us are being hijacked as points of differentiation by political hopefuls looking for a snappy campaign slogan. And it's easier to do than ever before. Why? Because social media. Social media makes this absolutely easy. And it's not even that social. It's just media. And media's job is to divide and conquer. I'll tell you why that is. It's because our anger has been monetized. John Jost, the kind of head of political and social studies for New York University, he had this to say about the issue. He said, once there were 3 networks that saw it as their responsibility to cover news events in an objective way. Then people realized that they could cover the news in such a way that they could make a profit. They could turn a profit. As a result, we now have more media empires than ever before, and these media empires are profiting off our division. And you could argue that, yes, but we've got more media empires, surely that's a good thing. And it would be, but that's entirely dependent on their intent. And I can tell you this, delivering measured news is at the very, very bottom of an extremely long list of priorities for these people. Obviously, a present company excluded. Do you guys know Branko? Now, I don't know if Branko can do an Irish accent. I highly doubt it. But if he could, he would be a shoo-in to do Bono in the movie adaptation. But I digress. John Jost went on to say the following. He said, they're making money by energizing polarized audiences. But here's the reality. We're not as polarized as the world thinks we are. The world, according to social media, makes us look like this, like we have completely different issues. But if you step into the real world at a picnic or a braai, you realize that actually what we all have is shared values. There is this demilitarized zone that we can all interact in, and that's the only place we can interact from, because only when you find a common place with people are you able to pursue an argument. The problem is, this DMZ is being militarized, and it is drawing battle lines inside families and friendships across issues that people didn't care about just months before. Like before Brexit, weeks before Brexit, if you went onto South African social media, nobody was talking about it, it was crickets. But the next day, everybody had an opinion on the matter. And then before Macron, the day before Macron was elected as the Premier of France, most of you still were under the assumption that Macron was a petite little lump of sugary goodness, right? The next day, Twitter South Africa was this clown car filled with people that had these opinions about this guy that he was either Satan or Savior. And don't get me started on the Queen. In fact, do get me started. The day the Queen was dying, a professor from Carnegie Mellon University went online and said the following. I heard the chief monarch of a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating. And to make this worse, thousands of people signed a petition saying, hey, this is in play, this is okay, this is her executing her rights to free speech. But these are the very same people that were standing outside protesting the very same university when Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro came to speak. And those Muppets on the right, they're no better off. Alex Jones saying that Sandy Hook didn't happen was disgusting and reprehensible. I can't stand either of these people, not because they're political, but because they're repulsive. Mostly, though, I cannot stand the sycophantic zombies that will listen to everything they're saying just based on the color of their baseball caps. Now, I understand here today that I'm speaking to you about a lot of things that you might say, hey, but this is all American politics. Well, I think I can raise this with relevance, and the reason being is most South Africans I see online are very, very happy to import their values and views wholesale from the United States. I often see more people caring about what happens in the United States and what happens in our very country, and I think it's wrong. Our values have been weaponized. Right? And they're getting used against us on a day-to-day basis. We are being sent with these values. We're being armed with them, and we're being sent in as cannon fodder into this age-old battle for power. It's devastating. It's disturbing. And mostly, it's just dumb. American comedian Jason Salmon said it best when he said the following.
I used to think I was too dumb for politics. Now, I'm not sure I'm dumb enough.
And there are a lot of dumb people when it comes to their politics. The average citizen, turns out, isn't that smart, and this makes them really, really easy prey for the smart conversationalists who are out there controlling the narrative. For the past quarter century, my team and I at Missing Link, we've worked with speakers like this. We've trained them, we've engaged with them, and if there's one thing I've discovered, it's the following. There's very little more powerful in the war for human attention than a sharply created rhetoric delivered by a skilled conversationalist. Years ago, this rhetoric was a weapon that was given to everyone, up until the 20th century. Now, though, this is something that has been limited to just a select few. We need to understand that things have changed. I know that you're the smart group, and you may be right, but please understand that being right doesn't make you smart any more than being smart makes you right. Everything is changing now, right? We're in a different space. Our opinions have been monopolized. Our anger has been monetized. And our values have been weaponized. We are in a dark, dark space. But we don't have to stay there. It turns out that we can flick the switch. We can change things, but we have to take control of the narrative. So, to hell with your politics. In fact, that's unfair because some of you genuinely mean well. To hell with the legacy-filled political ideals that are forcing you to play a manipulative game with us in order to make the changes that you want to make. It turns out there are better ways. We only have to look at places like Switzerland, along with their clocks and chucks. They brought us a system of direct democracy where citizens stand there voting on issues on a case-by-case basis. It's imperfect, but it's interesting. Or we could go to Taiwan. Their last two premiers have been unaffiliated to political parties. Their premier, when she was in her inauguration, she had this to say. She said, before democracy was seen as a clash between two opposing values, but from now on, democracy must become a conversation between many diverse values. This is wonderful in theory, and I'm a big fan of the work her and her hacker/minister, Angela Tang, are doing, but it works under the failed assumption that our values are, in fact, diverse. No. We need to remember Skousen's words. We shall never change our political leaders unless we change the people that elect them. Ladies and gentlemen, it has to start with us. And we can only do this if we start to replace our daily dose of doom scrolling with other more algorithmically agnostic forms of information. Things like history and philosophy books would be a great place to start. Or you could read the book, The Chaos Machine, in which a study was done that demonstrated that when a group of people took a 30-day social media diet, their political polarization issues dropped by half because they were never their issues in the first place. And then, finally, there are places like this, gatherings. You're here today with people who have opposing views to you. Talk to them, engage with them. But do so in that conversational, demilitarized zone. And when you're doing, just try and gauge a little bit of humility about the opinions that you hold that may not be as well earned as you think they are. So, it is time for us to reclaim our opinions from the algorithms that are using them against us. It is time for us to reclaim our values from the power mongers that are using them to divide us. And most of all, it is time for us to reclaim our anger because it would be far better directed elsewhere. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to reclaim ourselves. And we can only do that if we start dining at the ideological buffet table. I'll see you there. Peace. Literally.